Hey guys, Jill here. Welcome to our garden tour week 3. I feel like though I can no longer say that it is a spring garden tour. We have had temperatures that have been so high. Our heat index have been in the hundreds here in Arkansas. So I'm gonna nix the spring and just say welcome to the garden and let's do a tour. So I'll show you guys the berries today and just a couple other fun things. So yeah, let's get started. This is probably one of my favorite times. Morning and evenings are my favorite times in the garden, but it's about 6:30 here in the morning, and just seeing the sunrise out here literally makes my day. It's not hot, the birds are singing, the dogs are playing, the kids are sleeping. It is like such a special time for me to be out in the garden. I absolutely love it. Things are growing. I actually have fruit on my tomato plants to show you guys, so that's really exciting. I did want to tell y'all something that I'm doing too though, and I'll kind of show you as we get to each of those places. So the tomatoes in this bed right here, I am going to lightly prune. Now I have been kind of heavily pruning them, but I'm going to completely stop and just knock it back down to lightly pruning. The tomatoes that are in my long bed that we have on that trellis system, I'm going to continue to heavily prune. And then the tomatoes I have in my back bed, there's a couple large varieties, but for the most part they are cherries. I have quit pruning altogether. I get asked a lot of questions. Why do you heavily prune? I didn't even think pruning was necessary. So much so that I just thought it'd be fun to do a little experiment in our garden and see the 3 different ways you can prune, which one produces the most fruit, if I had pest disease more on one than the other. So I just think it'll be a really good visual. That way I can kind of weigh out, give you guys a recap on what did well and what didn't. I have been spending a lot of time hand picking these guys off of my Brussels sprouts. They are still doing good. I actually heard from some of you guys telling me that I needed to put insect netting on my Brussels sprouts, which I have no idea why I did not think of that before, but totally gonna do that. I've actually got it ordered, so I'm hoping, because I come through every morning and pick those worms off, and it's such a pain, and I just really want to get Brussels sprouts, so I'm hoping once I can get some insect netting over these, then it will keep the worms off, and maybe I can actually harvest some of these. But other than that, yeah, they're doing pretty well, and I haven't sprayed them anymore or sprinkled diatomaceous earth on them anymore. I may actually need to go through and do that. So far, I've just been inspecting my plant and hand picking all the worms off. All of our tomatoes are starting to get lots of blooms, as you can see here. And then this one down here actually has a little fruit there, so that's exciting. So these are going to be the ones that I'm lightly pruning, and by that I mean I'm taking off the bottom foliage and pruning some suckers lightly, but then that's it. Our cucumbers are really starting to show out right now too. Look at that. I feel like they've grown so much since our last garden tour. There's the other one. I keep trying to help them trellis up, but man, they're getting really big. So much has changed in this bed since our last garden tour. I finally got all of the spinach out. I finally got all the lettuce out. The only thing that is left is my chard, which I will probably be harvesting this for dinner like this week. So yeah, thank you guys for all the suggestions on flowers. I came out here, I think with Charlie, and we planted, oh my gosh, you guys, we planted like 2 full seed packs of zinnias. There was no rhyme or reason, there was no spacing, it was just her having a blast throwing out the seeds. So that was actually really fun, and I'm starting to see them pop up everywhere, which is really like a mom win for me. I love when Charlie comes out here and helps me plant, and sometimes I just never know what's planted where. But it's really nice to come out here and see all this stuff starting to pop up. I'm actually really surprised that they're coming up so fast. This tomato plant that Peyton planted is starting to grow quite a bit. I put a cage on this one. It was bent over because of a storm, but it's doing well. And then once I get the chard out, I'll just go through and finish planting flowers in the middle. Let's just take a look at that real quick though. Man, sun peeking through is so beautiful. So if you guys remember, I did a side-by-side of my tromboncino. One that had nothing planted by it, just could soak up all the nutrients from the soil, and then my one that had the spinach planted really close to it. Once I got that spinach out, it started rocking and rolling. This one behind me is obviously just like insane. Absolutely insane. But now this one, it's gotten, I mean, just to try to show you guys, it's gotten way bigger. I don't even honestly know like what I'm gonna do with this many tromboncino squashes, because there's so many of them. This one plant is so loaded. It makes me super excited. I'm really glad that they store well, so I can store these for like months and still probably be fine. But yeah, I think this one plant was probably plenty. They are just everywhere. And it goes all the way up. This one has quite a few on it too, so yeah, super exciting. Oh, there's a bloom. If you guys have been following along on my Instagram, you know that I finally started to harvest beets. I was really excited. I got some really good sized beets. We put some in our juices, and then I have one today that I'm going to dehydrate into the powder. But I was just super excited that they were actually like really good sized beets. So some of these are the mammoth variety, and I'm gonna go ahead and let those go a bit longer because I'm really curious just to see how big they get. I've heard they get huge, so I'm just gonna leave some of these in here honestly and probably just come and harvest as I need them, because I was trying to figure out what I could put here if I harvested them all, and it's really not a huge space, so I really don't know. I tossed around the idea of maybe just doing some like fun corn, because it would just grow up. It really wouldn't mess with anything. I know it is super late in the season for corn, but I honestly think I'd probably be okay. So I don't know. I don't know if I should harvest these and plant corn or just let them go and harvest as I need them. So we'll see next garden tour what I ended up doing. But if you look behind me, my green bean trellis, we'll go take a closer look. This thing is just, wow, probably one of my favorite places in the garden. And honestly, I mean, the tromboncino is my favorite thing in the garden right now, but this whole area is one of my favorite places to be in the garden right now. I don't know, it's just something so calming about walking through there and hearing all the bees. We have a hummingbird that hangs out, so I've just really enjoyed that space. I'm so glad that I sowed my beans way too early, because now I'm reaping the benefit of that, and I'm really glad that I did. My pepper plants are starting to do good, putting on some fruit. They are actually really loving the hotter temps, so these have done really well. And then my little rogue tomato back there, I don't even remember what variety it is, it's starting to put off blooms and do pretty well too. So yeah, I believe this one is an orange bell, and so yeah, they've shot up so much just in the last week or so. They really thrive with our hot heat, and they're loving every bit of it. Our onions are still doing really good. I mean, look how huge this is. I keep thinking that they're gonna be ready to harvest soon, especially like this one back here is just really thick around the base. So I think that there's probably a good size onion underneath there, but I just keep letting these go. As the outer leaves or the outer part of the onion dies off, I'm just peeling those off, trying to keep it as healthy as I can. But yeah, they look great. They're super tall. Well, would you look at that? This is also a benefit of coming out here. Just get a little handful of beans to take inside for lunch. Oh, look, our purple potted is starting to do something too. Yeah, I just can't say enough about this. This side's much fuller, but these are all starting to climb a lot. So they're starting to fill in nicely. Yeah, it is just breathtaking. I planted noodle beans on this entire trellis last year. I'd never actually grown or eaten noodle beans before. They just came recommended to me. And it was so funny. So they trellised all the way up beautifully, but then they were just, you had to literally duck when you came through the trellis. But it was so cool because I would just stand in the middle and I'd have all these hanging beans all around me. It was like the coolest thing ever. I think I planted noodle beans on each end maybe. Just, we didn't absolutely love them. They're kind of a weird texture. My kids didn't like them a lot, but I still wanted to have a place for them in my garden, just because having, like, walking through and just having those long beans, I don't know, I just absolutely loved having those in the garden. But this has been really nice too, just this wall of beans. It's my favorite way to grow green beans. So since I last talked to you guys, I spent a few hours out here and actually got tomato twine, did the correct way to trellis all of my tomatoes. It took me quite a bit of time, but it's done right. Most of these plants out here are 2-liter plants, so I went ahead on most of them and tied off both of the leaders to the trellis just so, you know, they wouldn't split or anything like that. But these tomatoes have come a long way. They're getting super tall, and I actually have fruit on them, which is super exciting. Right now I'm just having a hard time with the aphids, so I keep coming out here and hand picking, trying to order ladybugs and some beneficial insects. Look at there. Yeah, these things are getting pretty big. A labor of love I got going on. Oh, here's another one. Yeah, so these are doing great. I'm hoping they'll just continue to put off lots of fruit. Even my smaller ones that Tula had knocked over and I put down, they're actually getting pretty big size, especially compared to what they were. Man, this one's loaded too. So when I talk about heavy pruning, you guys can see I prune a lot of the bottom foliage off, all the suckers, and then I'll go through and just keep pruning it up a bit. I usually prune it until the first cluster of fruit, and then I'll wait for the next cluster of fruit and prune a lot in between there. The only thing I have to worry about that here is with the Arkansas heat, I don't want them to get scalded by the sun. So I'll be mindful of that. All right, are y'all ready? Do you see this? Do you see this climbing? Not only do I have cucamelons, I have cucamelons that are climbing, and not only do I have cucamelons that are climbing and growing, I actually have cucamelons. So yeah, I cannot wait to show you guys. They are so stinking cute. There are some just fun things I grow, like the noodle beans. Those are fun things that I don't just love the taste. I love the taste of these, and they're so stinking cute. So it really is like a win-win for us. Look at them. Oh my gosh, yes. This makes me so happy. Yeah, and they're just doing fantastic. My sunflowers are doing good. This one's starting to maybe get a little head in there. And my cucamelons over here are growing and starting to try to trellis, so that's really, really encouraging. The tomatoes in this bed on the end here with the peppers and the couple Brussels sprouts, these are the ones that I'm not pruning. I'm just gonna let go. I have pruned some of them, and Nathan has pruned some of them, and then I decided to do this little experiment. So we have quit pruning. There's 2 cherries right here, and then on the end, I think it's a Kellogg's breakfast, and it's already putting off some fruit. It's just so funny to me how bushy these plants look because I'm so used to heavy pruning. So that is going to be a challenge. Every time I come in here, I feel the need to give it a haircut, and I just keep trying to walk by and not spend a lot of time in this bed. But my Brussels sprouts, look how big they are. They're doing really... This bed has changed a lot. I finally ripped out all the lettuce, bagged it all up, and have it inside for the rabbits, feeding it to them every day. So I've just got it down to my 6 strawberry plants, and they're starting to put out runners. I'll show you guys what that looks like. And they're just gonna, each runner's gonna create a new plant. So I'm excited just to have this bed full of strawberries. I will transplant out my strawberries that I had in my containers in here as well. And yeah, I'll just buy more strawberries next year and just keep planting them in here. I think you'd be surprised though what one strawberry plant, how many other strawberry plants it'll produce. So I may not even have to buy strawberries next year. Okay, so this is a runner. So all of these are runners that the plant puts out. And each runner will find a place to root into the dirt like it has here, and it'll create another plant. So this one's actually rooted and grabbed a hold. And all of these will do that. They'll all put them out. You can see here, there's some as well. So this one plant already has produced multiple different plants. So I'll just let them go. Yeah, there's some down there that's starting to do it. So this one's created a runner, bedded down, created a plant. So yeah, that's really exciting. My bush beans are doing great. These are also low maintenance. I've not had any pests on them. So that has been nice just to have a bed out here that I really don't even have to worry about. I come out here probably once a week and weed the bed. And other than that, these are just doing their own thing, thriving, not taking any of my attention. So these are all notes that I'm like jotting down in my garden journal because I like things that are low maintenance. Like I know that my tomatoes are going to take a lot of time and attention out of me with pruning and pests and things like that. So to be able to grow beans like this and they not take a lot of my attention, not need a lot of my work, that's really, really appealing to me. So next year I feel like I will probably give bush beans more space in my garden just because I have really, really enjoyed them. Check out the squash and zucchini behind me. These things have grown quite a bit, are taking up majority of this bit. Look at the ones back here. I'm just so impressed with how well these have done. Even the ones I started quite a bit later because of Tula are starting to pop up, and they're doing really, really well too. We've harvested already lots of squash and zucchini. I'm coming out here about every day and harvesting. The only thing I'm running into right now is the squash bug. So I come out here and hand pick every single day, and morning and night, just a routine I do. And it seems to be keeping it under wraps, but there's still just so many of them, especially when like these plants are all huge. They're all just kind of, the squash bugs are just running from one plant to the other. So that's the only downfall of these right now. But they look beautiful. Already have some, oh, that one's rotted off. I have to get that one. But already have, lots of squash to harvest. This plant's loaded down with squash and blossoms. There's more. Yeah, I apparently planted a lot of squash. This one over here is zucchini, and there's lots of zucchini and blooms. But just check out how big these plants are. Especially this one over here too. They're all just huge. Yeah, and these are starting to size up really well. The 3 down the middle. I still haven't separated these 2 out, and I need to come in and do that today before they just get too big that they're not going to be able to properly grow. Like this one was fused, and you can tell it's just so compacted that it's not growing the way that it should, and I definitely don't want that to happen over there. Tula, what are you doing? What are you doing? Get down, get down. I have been impatiently waiting for these blueberries to turn. These things are full and loaded, so all of these are just blueberries. I finally saw some on here that are starting to turn. Usually it's mid-June that we start seeing the blueberries ripe enough for we can come and pick them. I harvest quite a few off of these, so it's super, super exciting to me to actually see some starting to turn. Look at there. Yeah, it won't be long and all of these will just start having some color. A little muscadine update. All of these are our muscadines. They are starting to put off fruit, small fruit, but these won't be ready for us until I think like August, late July or August. So there's so many of them that I'm not even worried. Honestly, these are one of those things that I'm glad that it comes later in the season, because I think I harvest around a 5-gallon bucket a day full of muscadines. It is a very, very time-consuming chore. So it goes all the way down our fence line too, and then all the way back. I mean, it's Tula, no ma'am, come here. So these are quite a bit of work. So I don't mind that this is one of those chores that's gonna come later in the season. And our pea patch behind us, we've halfway flame weeded, still have the other half to do. This is a very, very time consuming. That's something we're gonna work on a lot this summer, is really, really getting our in-ground gardens the way that they need to be as far as weed control. So right now we have it where we just tilled into the ground. What we will do is lay tarps over the surface of the grass we wanna kill. Do that for quite a while, a few weeks, 4 to 6 weeks. Then we'll come in and like flame weed whatever weeds were left. Then we're wanting to bring in cardboard and build our beds, and then bring in compost and build our beds. So we wouldn't actually be planting in our soil. This soil here is a bit rocky, so if you go through, there's a ton of rocks, and it's just really, really hard to stay on top of the weeds. So when you build up your beds with compost, it's just much more manageable. And it's a lot easier to create a bed too. We really want to get away from no-till completely, which this is the only thing that we till. So that's something that we will slowly be transitioning and trying to work on more in the next few months. All right, the last thing I'm going to show you guys on our garden tour is one of the funnest surprises that we have found on our farm thus far. So when we moved here, we saw this big patch of things growing by our well, and one of our friends came out and was like, "Oh, did you realize you had garlic planted?" We were like, no. Well, we do. All of this is garlic. It's in this patch, and it has self-seeded for years. The bad thing about that is when it self-seeds, it all clusters together, so it has been a pain. Typically you want to harvest garlic with like a fork, that way you're not damaging the cloves at all. Well, since they're so close together, I'm not able to do that. I'm having to take a spade and harvest these, which I am causing some damage to some of the cloves, which is the bad thing. But I'm trying to harvest as much as I can and cure it. I've got it braided on the back porch. I'll show you guys what that looks like. But I'm wanting to harvest as much as I can. That way I can give it a designated spot and try to plant it in its own bed. But yeah, some of these have already turned to flowers here. This is a hardneck I have found. I've had to do a lot of research about garlic in the last few days, just figuring out how to store it and cure it properly. So this has been super fun. I've just come out here every single morning and harvested for about an hour, because that's how long it's taking me, just because it is so compacted. But this is one of those fun things that I think is really cool to have on your farm, that I never even knew garlic self-seeded like that. So that's been super fun for me, just to harvest the garlic that I have harvested and attempted to braid, and we just have it, some of it hung up here. We did have some of it laid out here, which I'll have to do more. But there's some pretty good sized garlics out there. I'm just actually super, super impressed. All right, you guys, that wraps up our week 3 garden tour. I showed you the garden, I showed you the berries, all the garlic I harvested, and that's everything new that's going on. So hopefully by the time I hang out with you guys next week, there will be even more growth in the garden and more fun things planted. But thank you guys so much for hanging out with me today, and I'll talk to you soon.